Ilara's hands are bleeding again. The cursed iron burns through her worn gloves, like they're made of paper, leaving blisters that will scar over the old scars, creating layers of damage that map out 24 years of forced labor in the forges of the outcast quarter. She's learned not to flinch. Flinching draws attention from the guards, and attention from guards usually means punishment, either for her or for one of the other outcasts who can't defend themselves. Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact. Move efficiently, but not quickly enough to seem eager. Survive one more day. Repeat. This is the mantra Ilara has lived by since she was 5 years old, since the day her gift manifested, and the Shadowfen pack dragged her parents to the execution grounds in front of the entire quarter. Since the day she learned that being different means being dangerous, and being dangerous means being locked away where normal wolves don't have to acknowledge your existence. The outcast quarter isn't technically a prison. The Shadowfen pack is very careful about that distinction. It's a protective settlement where wolves born with unnatural magical gifts are housed for the safety of both the gifted and the pure-blooded pack members. The 20-foot stone walls topped with iron spikes are for protection. The guards who shoot anyone trying to leave are for safety. The cursed iron forges, where outcasts work 16-hour shifts until their bodies give out, are for the good of the pack. Someone has to handle the cursed metal, and it might as well be the wolves who are already tainted. It's slavery dressed up in legal language and justified by fear. And Ilara has spent her entire conscious life trapped in it. She's 24 now, which makes her one of the oldest outcasts still alive in the quarter. Most don't survive past their mid-20s. The cursed iron exposure kills them slowly, poisoning their wolves, weakening their bodies until sickness or injury or simple exhaustion finishes the job. Ilara should have died years ago by those standards. The healers don't understand why she's still standing when wolves with less exposure have already succumbed. What they don't know, what Ilara has never told anyone, is that somewhere around year 15, her body stopped fighting the cursed iron and started adapting to it. Started absorbing the curse instead of being poisoned by it. It still hurts, still burns, still leaves scars that never fully heal, but it doesn't kill her anymore. Her wolf has learned to metabolize curses the way other wolves metabolize food. It's probably another unnatural gift. Probably makes her even more tainted in the eyes of the pure-blooded wolves. So she's never mentioned it, never given them another reason to declare her dangerous. She hauls another cartload of cursed iron toward the central forge, her muscles screaming in protest. The cart weighs more than she does. The guards make sure of that, loading each outcast's cart based on their maximum capacity rather than reasonable expectations. If you can pull it, you will pull it. If you can't, you'll be beaten until you can, or until you die trying. Ilara has gotten very good at pulling impossible weights. "Head down, little seer," whispers a voice to her left. Old Marcus, the quarter's unofficial elder, keeping pace despite being nearly 70 and half blind from decades of forge work. "Guards are restless today. Something's happening outside the walls. Best to be invisible." Ilara doesn't nod. Nodding means looking up. And looking up means risking eye contact. And eye contact means her gift activates whether she wants it to or not. Instead, she makes a soft sound of acknowledgement and keeps her gaze fixed firmly on the ground 3 feet ahead of her cart. Her gift is why she's here. Why her parents were executed. Why she's spent every day of her life since age 5 being told she's an abomination. She sees death. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. She literally sees how every living thing will die. Make eye contact with a person, and her mind is flooded with a vision of their final moments. How they'll die, when they'll die, what their last thoughts will be. It's automatic, unavoidable, and absolutely horrifying for a child to experience. The first time it happened, she'd looked at her father and seen him being executed by Alpha Command, his throat torn out in front of a cheering crowd. She'd screamed, tried to warn him, begged him to run. He hadn't believed her. Not until 3 days later, when the Alpha decided that parents of a Death Seer must have summoned demons to curse their child, and the execution Ilara had foreseen became reality exactly as she'd seen it. She's learned since then. Learned to never make eye contact. Learned to keep her gaze fixed on the ground or on objects instead of people. Learned that knowing how someone will die doesn't mean she can prevent it. Fate is stubborn, and death finds its way no matter what warnings she gives. So she stopped warning people, stopped looking at them, stopped caring about the deaths she couldn't prevent. Survival became her only goal. Not living, just surviving. There's a difference. The day shift ends when the sun disappears behind the quarter walls. 16 hours of hauling cursed iron, stoking forges that burn hot enough to melt steel, breathing air thick with metallic poison that coats her lungs and makes every breath taste like copper. Alara returns to the communal sleeping barracks, a long, low building with 40 narrow cots packed so close together that you can hear your neighbor's nightmares as clearly as your own. She collapses onto her cot without bothering to wash. Water is rationed in the quarter, and she's learned to save her allocation for drinking rather than cleaning. The cursed iron residue on her skin will flake off eventually. Everything does, given enough time. Skin, hope, the will to live. It all flakes away in the outcast quarter, leaving behind hollow shells that go through motions until their bodies finally give up. But tonight, sleep doesn't come. Something feels wrong, off. Like the air pressure has changed, or like a storm is building just beyond perception. Alara's wolf is restless, pacing in the back of her mind in a way she hasn't felt since. The howl hits like a physical blow. It's not sound, not exactly. It bypasses her ears entirely and resonates directly in her bones, in her wolf. In the part of her that's still connected to the magical world despite 24 years of trying to smother it. Every outcast in the barrack sits up simultaneously, their eyes wide and glowing with their wolf's presence. Asterisk. Help me! I'm dying! Someone help! The words aren't spoken, but felt, a call that pulls at something fundamental in Alara's chest. Her wolf surges forward, responding to the plea with an urgency that should be impossible after years of learned helplessness. Did you hear that? Someone whispers in the darkness. Young Finn, barely 16, still new enough to the quarter that he hasn't learned to shut down his responses to the world outside the walls. We all heard it, old Marcus says grimly. That's old magic. Alpha magic. Someone powerful is dying out there. The guards didn't react. Another voice adds. River, a watercolor whose gift lets him sense emotional currents. They can't hear it. It's only reaching the gifted. Which means it's not our problem, says a harsh female voice. Kaya, a fire starter who's survived 15 years in the quarter by being harder than the cursed iron she works. Powerful wolves dying is how we ended up here in the first place. Let them handle their own problems. But Alara's gift is already activating, triggered by the magical resonance of the howl. Her vision whites out, and she sees a massive white wolf, easily 6 feet at the shoulder, covered in chains made of living thorns that dig deeper with every breath. The thorns are drinking his blood, converting his life force into more growth, creating an ever-expanding web that will eventually crush him completely. She sees his ice-blue eyes losing focus, sees his massive body convulsing as the curse overwhelms even his supernatural strength, sees him dying alone in a clearing in the Forbidden Woods, 3 hours from now, while the thorns slowly suffocate him. She sees this death happen in 3 hours. The vision releases her, and she's gasping on her cot, her heart racing, her wolf howling in distress. Seer? Old Marcus is beside her, his weathered hand on her shoulder. What did you see? Death, Alara whispers. In 3 hours, a white wolf in the Forbidden Woods, dying from thorn chains, blood curse, dark magic. That's not our concern, Kaya says firmly. The Forbidden Woods are called forbidden for a reason. Outcasts who go there don't come back. But if he's calling for help, Finn starts, then let the pure-blooded wolves help him, Kaya snaps. We're tainted, remember? Dangerous, unnatural, not fit to interact with normal pack members. Why should we risk our lives for someone who probably thinks we should all be executed just for existing? She's not wrong. Alara knows she's not wrong. Whoever that wolf is, he's probably just another pure-blooded wolf who believes the propaganda about outcasts being demons or cursed or too dangerous to live. Saving him won't earn gratitude. It'll probably just give him a chance to report them for leaving the quarter, which means more punishment, maybe executions. Going into the Forbidden Woods is suicide. Even if the dark magic doesn't kill her, the guards will when they realize she left. And she survived 24 years by being smart, by being invisible, by never taking risks that don't have clear benefits. But her gift flares again, showing her not just the white wolf's death, but the asterisk consequences asterisk of that death. Ripples spreading outward, packs falling into war, territories burning, thousands of wolves dying in conflicts that wouldn't have happened if this one wolf had lived. She sees a future where her cowardice, her refusal to help, enables catastrophe on a scale she can't fully comprehend. And something else. Something her gift has never shown her before. She sees herself walking away, returning to her cot, ignoring the howl, sees herself living another year, maybe two, before the cursed iron finally kills her, sees herself dying in this barracks without ever having lived, without ever having mattered, without ever having been anything more than a ghost in chains. She sees this version of her death, and for the first time in 19 years, she feels something stronger than the desire to survive. She feels the desire to asterisk live asterisk. "I'm going," Alara says, standing up. Her legs are shaking, her heart racing, every survival instinct screaming at her to sit back down and be invisible. "I'm going to help him." "You'll die," Kaya says bluntly. "Probably," Alara agrees. "But I'm dying here anyway. At least out there, I'll die doing something that matters." Old Marcus studies her face for a long moment, then nods slowly. The east wall has loose stones near the forge. Been that way for years. Guards are lazy about checking it because they don't think we're brave enough or stupid enough to try escaping. You'll have maybe an hour before they notice you're gone. "I'll come with you," Finn says, standing up. "No," Alara says firmly. "You're 16. You still have time to survive this place. Don't throw that away for a suicide mission." "None of us survive this place," Finn says quietly. "We just die slower. If you're going to do something that matters, I want to matter too." River stands as well. "I'll watch the guards, delay any searches if I can. You'll need every minute." One by one, the other outcasts start moving, some offering supplies, some creating distractions, some just touching Alara's shoulder in silent support. Even Kaya, after a long moment of glaring, produces a small knife from her cot. "Take this," the fire starter says gruffly. "It's iron, not cursed. Might be useful. And if you somehow survive this and get out of the quarter for real, don't come back for us. Just live free and remember we existed. That's enough." Alara takes the knife. Her throat tight with emotion she hasn't let herself feel in years. These outcasts, these broken, tainted, dangerous wolves that society threw away, they're more pack than the Shadowfen wolves have ever been. "I'll remember," she promises, "all of you." The climb over the east wall is harder than she expected. The loose stones old Marcus mentioned are loose because they're crumbling, not because they're conveniently positioned as handholds. Alara's fingers are bleeding, and her arms are shaking by the time she pulls herself over the top, and she hasn't even reached the Forbidden Woods yet. The descent is worse. She slips twice, barely catching herself, before falling 20 feet onto rocks that would definitely kill her. When she finally reaches the ground outside the quarter walls, she has to crouch in the shadows for several minutes, just catching her breath and convincing her legs to work again. The Forbidden Woods loom ahead, darker than the normal forest, like they're absorbing light instead of just blocking it. Alara has heard stories about these woods her entire life. Stories about magical waste dumped by the pack, about cursed objects too dangerous to destroy, about creatures that shouldn't exist hunting in the darkness. Stories about outcasts who tried to escape and were found days later, their bodies twisted by dark magic or torn apart by something with too many teeth. Every instinct is screaming at her to turn back, to climb back over the wall, to return to her cot and pretend this never happened. But the howl comes again, weaker this time, barely a whisper in her bones. Asterisk, help, please. Anyone. Alara starts walking. The woods are worse than the stories suggested. The trees are wrong. Their bark moves like skin. Their branches reach toward her with something that resembles hunger, or curiosity, or maybe just malice. The ground is covered in fragments of cursed iron and darker things, objects she can't identify that pulse with sickly light. The air tastes like copper and rot, and something sweet that makes her stomach turn. She walks for what feels like hours, but is probably only 40 minutes, following the pull of that magical howl, stepping carefully around cursed objects and things that might be alive. Her gift keeps activating randomly, showing her how various forest creatures will die. A corrupted rabbit torn apart by its own mutating body in 6 days. A tree collapsing from curse rot in 8 months. An insect being eaten by something that definitely isn't another insect in 3 hours. Everything in these woods dies badly. Everything except she finds him in a clearing that shouldn't exist. A perfect circle where nothing grows, surrounded by trees that look like they were trying to flee and got frozen mid-escape. The ground is bare dirt, packed hard like it's been baked, and in the center of that barren circle lies the white wolf from her vision. He's magnificent, even dying. Easily 6 feet at the shoulder, pure white fur that should be pristine, but is instead soaked crimson with blood. His body is covered in chains made of living thorns, each thorn the length of her finger and curved like talons, digging into his flesh at hundreds of points. The thorns pulse visibly, drinking his blood. And where they drink, she can see new thorns growing, the chains becoming denser, heavier, crushing him slowly. His ice-blue eyes are barely open, tracking her movement with predatory awareness, even in extremis. She can see intelligence in those eyes, awareness that goes beyond animal instinct. This isn't just a wolf. This is a shifter, trapped in animal form, dying alone in the forbidden woods because someone wanted him to suffer. And wrapped around the thorn chains are symbols that make Alara's skin crawl. Ancient magic, blood curses, the kind of ritual that requires sacrifice and hatred and years of preparation. Someone didn't just restrain this wolf. They executed him slowly, meticulously, ensuring maximum pain over maximum time. Alara's gift activates automatically as she looks at him, and nothing, no death vision, no final moments, no glimpse of how this wolf's life will end. She blinks, confused, and looks again. Forces her gift to activate harder, the way she does when trying to see distant deaths or unclear futures. Still nothing. In 24 years of having this cursed gift, she has never encountered a living thing whose death she couldn't see. Every insect, every plant, every wolf, every guard, she sees how they'll die. It's automatic, unavoidable, the curse that made her tainted. But this wolf is blank. Either he's already dead, his labored breathing suggests otherwise, or he's somehow immune to her gift, which shouldn't be possible, or he's not supposed to die. Fate itself has declared this wolf unkillable, necessary, too important to let death claim him, which means the thorn chains, the blood curse, the dark magic. It's all fighting against destiny itself, and losing, if the vision she had earlier is accurate. 3 hours until death, which means she has maybe 2 hours left now to tip the scales in fate's favor. Okay, Alara whispers, her voice rough from disuse. She doesn't speak much in the quarter. Speaking draws attention, and attention is dangerous. Okay, I'll help. I saw you calling. I saw you dying. And apparently, fate doesn't want you dead, which makes you the first living thing I've ever met that my gift can't kill. So let's see if we can keep you that way. The white wolf's eyes focus on her with sudden intensity, and she meets his gaze directly for the first time. Her gift tries to activate, tries to show her his death, and gets nothing, just blankness, possibility. A future that isn't written yet because he's somehow outside her gift's purview. It's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. I don't know if you can understand me, Alara continues, moving closer carefully. But those chains are dark magic, blood curse. They're drinking you dry and using your own life force to grow stronger. Whoever did this to you wanted you to suffer, wanted you to die slowly, in agony, unable to escape, or call for help, except— She pauses. Except you did call for help. Called to the outcasts, the gifted ones, the tainted wolves who can hear magic that pure-blooded wolves can't. She kneels beside him, close enough now to smell blood and something else. Something that smells like winter and ice and power that makes her wolf whimper with recognition of an alpha far stronger than any she's encountered. This is going to hurt, she says, reaching for the first thorn. I don't have tools, don't have magic that makes sense for this. But I have something else, something I've never told anyone because it makes me even more of a freak than I already am. Her fingers touch the first thorn. It burns. Not like fire, like ice and poison, and liquid despair injected directly into her veins. The thorn latches onto her immediately, trying to drink her blood the way it's drinking the wolf's, trying to convert her life force into more growth. She feels the curse trying to take root in her body, trying to corrupt her the way it's corrupting everything it touches. But then her adaptation kicks in. The thing she developed after 15 years of touching cursed iron. Her body absorbs the curse, pulls it in, neutralizes it, turns it from active poison to inert matter. The thorn shrivels in her grip, its pulsing life force draining away, and after 10 seconds of burning agony, it crumbles to ash. The white wolf makes a sound between a whimper and a gasp, his eyes widening with something that looks like shock, or hope, or maybe recognition. Alara doesn't wait for permission or encouragement. She grabs another thorn, then another, then another. Each one burns like the first, the curse overwhelming even her adaptation when concentrated. But each one crumbles to ash after enough exposure to her touch. She works systematically, starting from the outside and working her way in, trying to remove the chains layer by layer rather than randomly. The thorns are thick, some as wide as her thumb, and there are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one takes 10 to 15 seconds of burning contact before it crumbles, and her hands are already raw from the cursed ironwork earlier. 30 minutes in, her palms are bleeding. The curse is eating through her skin faster than her adaptation can heal it. 45 minutes in, she can see bone in places. Her fingers are shaking so badly she can barely grip the thorns, and she's sobbing from pain she's too stubborn to acknowledge with screams. 1 hour in, the white wolf tries to make her stop, turning his massive head to push at her hands with his muzzle, whining in distress at what she's doing to herself. Don't, Alara says through gritted teeth. Don't make me stop. I've survived 24 years of being told I'm worthless, of being told my gift makes me dangerous, unnatural, wrong. I've survived being property, being invisible, being nothing, and I am not going to fail at the one thing I've chosen to do that actually matters. So stay still and let me help you. The wolf goes quiet, his ice blue eyes watching her with an intensity that makes her chest ache. There's intelligence in that gaze, awareness and gratitude and something else, something that looks like destiny clicking into place. 90 minutes in, she removes the last chain. The final thorn crumbles to ash in her ruined hands, and suddenly, the white wolf can breathe properly for the first time since she arrived. His chest expands with a full inhale, his eyes brighten, and she can see his supernatural healing starting to kick in as the curse's suppression lifts. Alara collapses beside him, her vision graying at the edges. She's lost a lot of blood, absorbed too much curse. Her body is trying to adapt, trying to metabolize the concentrated dark magic. but there's a limit to what even her unnatural resistance can handle. "You're welcome," she manages to say before the world starts spinning. "Try not to die now. Would be really annoying if I ruined my hands for nothing." The white wolf is on his feet, unsteady but standing, and he's looking at her with eyes that hold too much awareness for an animal. She sees him make a decision, sees something shift in the way he holds himself, and then he shifts. The transformation is agonizing to watch. Bones restructuring audibly, snapping and reforming, fur receding to reveal skin covered in wounds where the thorns pierce deepest. The massive wolf compressing into a man who's still enormous, easily 6'9", powerfully built with muscle that speaks of centuries of warrior training, scars visible everywhere the thorns hadn't covered. His hair is white blonde, hanging to his shoulders in waves matted with blood. His face is all sharp angles and strong bones, aristocratic features that look like they belong on ancient sculptures of warrior kings. His body is pure strength, broad shoulders tapering to narrow waist, and long legs, though he's clearly malnourished from days without food or water. And his ice blue eyes, are exactly the same in human form, looking at her with an intensity that steals what little breath she has left. He's also completely naked, because shifters don't keep clothing through transformation, but Ilara is too close to unconsciousness to care about modesty. "You're real," he says, his voice deep and rough from screaming. "The Death Seer from the prophecy. The one who sees endings but chose to create a beginning instead." "I don't know what you're talking about," Ilara says, her words slurring. "I just heard you calling and couldn't let you die alone. I've seen too many deaths. Couldn't watch another one when I could prevent it." He moves faster than she would have thought possible for someone who was dying minutes ago, catching her before she can collapse completely. His arms are surprisingly gentle despite his size, cradling her like she's something precious instead of a tainted outcast with ruined hands. "I'm Thorn," he says, lowering them both to the ground so she's propped against his chest. "Alpha King of the Northern Territories, ruler of the 12 Northern Packs. And you just saved the one wolf in existence who was prophesied to end the outcast persecution. The one wolf who can't die because fate itself has declared, 'I'm necessary for what comes next.'" "That's nice," Ilara says, consciousness fading despite her efforts to stay aware. "I'm Ilara. I'm nobody. I'm tainted. I'm from the outcast quarter. And I'm going to pass out now because I think I absorbed too much death curse." "You're not nobody," Thorn says, and his voice holds absolute conviction. "You're the woman who touched death magic with bare hands to save a stranger. You're the Death Seer who chose life instead of walking away. And you're my mate. I felt the bond snap into place the moment you touched the first chain. The prophecy said my mate would be the one who sees death but chooses life, who's suffered in darkness but creates light, who's been told she's dangerous but uses her gift for compassion. That's you, Ilara. You're exactly who the prophecy said you'd be." Ilara wants to argue, wants to tell him that she can't be anyone's mate because she's tainted and cursed and spent 24 years being told she's too dangerous to exist. Wants to explain that prophecies aren't real, that mate bonds are just biology, that she doesn't do hope or destiny or anything that isn't concrete survival. But she's unconscious before she can form the words, and her last thought before darkness claims her is that his arms feel safe in a way she's never experienced. Like, maybe, just maybe, being found isn't the same as being trapped. Like maybe, for once, she made the right choice. Ilara wakes to softness. It's wrong, disorienting. Everything in the outcast quarter is hard. Hard cots, hard ground, hard labor, hard reality. Softness is a memory from before she was 5, from the brief time she had parents and a home and a future that didn't involve cursed iron forges. She forces her eyes open and finds herself in a bed. An actual bed with actual pillows and actual blankets that aren't threadbare rags. The room around her is larger than the entire barracks she shared with 40 other outcasts, with stone walls that look clean instead of stained with decades of suffering, windows that let in actual sunlight, furniture that serves purposes beyond basic survival. Her hands are wrapped in bandages that smell like healing herbs, something expensive, something the outcast quarter would never waste on a tainted wolf. The bandages are clean, white, changed recently enough that there's no blood seeping through. Someone has been caring for her while she was unconscious. Panic hits like a physical blow. Where is she? How long has she been out? The guards must know she left the quarter by now. They'll punish everyone, make examples, probably execute people looking for answers about who helped her escape. Old Marcus, Finn, River, Kaya, all the outcasts who gave her supplies and created distractions and touched her shoulder in solidarity. They're going to die because she left, because she helped a stranger, because she chose compassion over the survival strategy that kept them all alive. "You're awake," says a deep voice, and Alara's head snaps toward the sound so fast her neck protests. Theron, the White Wolf, the Alpha King, the man she saved, sits in a chair beside her bed. He's dressed now in simple dark pants and a white shirt that somehow still looks regal on him, his white blonde hair clean and pulled back, his face showing no sign of the wounds he had when she lost consciousness. Alpha healing is apparently very efficient. He's watching her with those ice-blue eyes that don't trigger her death-seeing gift, and the intensity of his gaze makes her want to hide under the blankets like a child. "The other outcasts," Alara says immediately, her voice raw. "The ones in the Shadowfen quarter. The guards will punish them for my escape. They'll are safe," Theron interrupts gently. "All 47 of them. My warriors extracted them 3 hours after you lost consciousness, while you were still unconscious and couldn't argue about the danger. They're here now, in my territory, under my protection. Every single outcast from Shadowfen's quarter is free, Alara, including you." The words don't make sense. Alara's brain tries to process them and fails, stuck on the impossibility of what he's saying. Free, all of them. 47 outcasts who were supposed to die slowly in that quarter, now free because— "You couldn't have," she says, shaking her head. "Shadowfen's quarter has guards, walls, magical wards. You couldn't have just walked in and taken everyone." "I didn't walk in," Theron says with a slight smile. "I sent my elite warriors, the Silent Fangs, trained for exactly this kind of extraction. They went over the walls while the guards were distracted by your escape, gathered all 47 outcasts who were willing to leave, and brought them here before Shadowfen's Alpha even realized they'd lost their free labor force." "But," Alara struggles to sit up despite her protesting body, "but that's an act of war. You stole from another pack. The Council of Alphas will— "The Council of Alphas will do nothing," Theron says calmly, "because the Council has been trying to find a legal way to shut down the outcast quarter system for decades. The problem is that packs like Shadowfen claim they're protecting both the gifted wolves and the pure-blooded pack members by keeping them separated. They use fear and propaganda to justify what's essentially slavery, and the Council can't act without proof that the quarters are actually harmful rather than protective." He leans forward, his eyes intense. "But now I have 47 witnesses who can testify about the conditions, the forced labor, the cursed iron exposure, the deaths, everything. And I have you, a death seer who survived 24 years in those conditions when most die within 10. You're living proof that the protective settlement is actually a death camp with a pretty name." "You used me," Alara says slowly, understanding dawning. "You used my escape to justify the extraction. Made it look like you were responding to my individual case rather than planning a mass liberation." "Yes," Theron admits without hesitation. "I used the opportunity you created. I won't apologize for that. Those outcasts deserved freedom, and you gave me the excuse to provide it. But I didn't manipulate you into helping me, Alara. You chose to save me. You chose to risk your life for a stranger who was calling for help. Everything that came after was me honoring that choice by extending the same compassion to your fellow outcasts. Ilara doesn't know how to process this, doesn't know if she should be grateful or angry or suspicious or some combination of all three. She spent 24 years learning that nothing is free, that every kindness has a cost, that trusting powerful wolves is how you end up executed in front of a crowd. "What do you want from me?" she asks bluntly. "You said I'm your mate, that there's some prophecy, but I don't understand what that means, or what you expect me to do, or—" She gestures at the room. "Why you're bothering with all this instead of just thanking me and sending me on my way." Theron is quiet for a long moment, studying her face like he's trying to read something written in her expressions. Finally, he speaks. "Have you ever heard the prophecy of the unkillable king?" "No. I'm an outcast. We don't get prophecy education in the quarter. We get cursed iron and starvation rations." "Fair point," Theron says with a wince. "The prophecy is ancient, supposedly given by the moon goddess herself 500 years ago. It says, when packs divide the gifted from the pure, when fear makes prisons of protection, when the innocent suffer for their power, the unkillable king will rise. He cannot die by blade or poison, by magic or by time, until his purpose is complete. He will free the suffering, unite the divided, and remake the pack law with his mate at his side. The one who sees endings but creates beginnings, who suffers in darkness but chooses light. Who is called dangerous, but wields compassion as her strength." He meets her eyes. "I am the unkillable king, Ilara. I've known since I was 16 and survived an assassination attempt that should have killed me 3 times over. The assassins used silver, used poison, used magic. Nothing worked. I healed from injuries that should have been fatal, and I realized the prophecy wasn't metaphor. I literally cannot die until I complete my purpose, ending the outcast persecution." "And the mate part?" Ilara asks, her chest tight. "The prophecy says, I'll do it with my mate at my side. The one who sees endings but creates beginnings. That's you, Ilara. Your death-seeing gift lets you see endings, but you chose to prevent my death instead of just watching it happen. You created a beginning. The beginning of my liberation campaign. The beginning of your freedom, the beginning of us, instead of accepting the ending you foresaw." Ilara's hands are shaking. She clutches the blankets to keep them still. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone who just wanted to help because the howling wouldn't stop. "I know," Theron says softly, "and I'm not trying to pressure you into anything. But you asked what I want from you, so I'm being honest. I want you to work with me. I want your help freeing the other outcast quarters across the territories. I want your testimony about what you survived so the council can't ignore the truth anymore. I want—" He hesitates. "I want you to give me a chance to prove that the mate bond isn't a trap or a chain, that it can be a partnership between equals who choose each other." "I don't feel any bond," Ilara says. "You keep saying I'm your mate, but I don't feel anything except confused and overwhelmed." "You won't feel it until we complete it," Theron explains. "Right now, I feel the pull, because my wolf recognized you the moment you touched the thorn chains. But for you, it won't manifest until we both choose to accept it. Until then, you're free to make your own decisions about whether you even want to explore the possibility." Free? That word again. Ilara doesn't know if she believes it yet, doesn't know if freedom is even something she remembers how to have. "Can I see them?" she asks abruptly. "The other outcasts. I need to know they're really here and safe." "Of course." Theron stands immediately. "Though fair warning, they've been asking about you constantly. You're apparently something of a hero to them for actually escaping the quarter." "I didn't escape. I just left temporarily for a suicide mission that accidentally worked out." Theron's smile is warm and genuine. "That's exactly what a hero would say." He helps her out of bed. Her legs are shaky and her hands are still wrapped in bandages that make gripping difficult, and leads her through corridors that are too clean, too spacious, too bright after years in the dim confines of the outcast quarter. They pass wolves in both human and animal form, all of whom bow to Thorn and look at Ilara with curiosity that borders on awe. She keeps her gaze fixed on the floor, old habits too strong to break immediately. Looking up means risking eye contact, and eye contact means seeing deaths, and she's seen enough deaths to last several lifetimes. They emerge into a courtyard where the outcasts are gathered, all 47 of them, looking cleaner and better fed than Ilara has ever seen them, wearing clothes that aren't rags, standing in sunshine without guards watching their every move. Seer! Finn spots her first, the young wolf's face breaking into a grin that makes him look even younger than 16. You're awake. We were worried the curse absorption was too much, and you'd... He's cut off by old Marcus, pulling him back. Give her space, boy. She just woke up. The elderly wolf approaches more slowly, his half-blind eyes somehow still able to find Ilara's face. You did it, little seer. You saved him, and he saved us. That's a fair trade in my book. Marcus! Ilara's voice cracks. I thought they'd execute you all looking for answers about my escape. Probably would have, Marcus agrees. But his warriors moved fast, had us out before the morning shift bell even rang. The guards didn't notice until they came to wake us for work and found empty cots. His weathered face splits into a grin. Would have paid good money to see their faces when they realized their entire free labor force had vanished overnight. River approaches next, the watercolor's emotional sensitivity probably picking up on Ilara's overwhelming confusion. We're free, he says simply. Actually free. The Alpha King says we can stay here, in his territory, or he'll help us relocate anywhere we want. We're not prisoners. We're not tainted outcasts. We're just wolves. Just wolves, Ilara repeats, the words foreign on her tongue. Even Kaya is there, the hard-edged fire starter, standing at the back of the group with her arms crossed. When she catches Ilara's gaze, she nods once, a gesture of respect that means more coming from Kaya than a dozen speeches would from someone else. You told me not to come back if I escaped, Ilara says to the fire starter. Told me to just live free and remember you existed. I did, Kaya agrees. Didn't expect you to get us all out instead. You're either the bravest wolf I've ever met or the most foolish. Haven't decided which yet. Can't it be both? Ilara asks, and gets surprised laughter from several outcasts. Theron lets her talk with them for over an hour, answering questions about how she saved him and what happened in the Forbidden Woods. She edits the story carefully, mentions the thorn chains and the curse absorption, but leaves out the prophecy and the mate bond. Those are too complicated, too overwhelming to process publicly. When the outcasts finally disperse to explore their new home, Theron guides Ilara to a quieter area, a garden with actual flowers and grass that's green instead of dead. There's a bench, and she sinks onto it gratefully, her body still recovering from curse absorption and blood loss. You didn't tell them about the prophecy, Theron observes, sitting beside her but maintaining careful distance. They've been through enough, Ilara says. They don't need the pressure of thinking their escape is connected to some grand cosmic plan. They just need to be free to figure out who they are without the outcast quarter defining them. What about you? Thorn asks. What do you need? Ilara is quiet for a long moment, watching a bird land on a nearby flower. Her gift activates automatically, showing her how the bird will die in 3 years. Old age, peacefully, in a nest surrounded by offspring. It's such a mundane, gentle death that her throat tightens with unexpected emotion. I need time, she finally says. I need to not be anyone's hero, or anyone's mate, or anyone's prophesied savior. I need to remember how to be just Ilara without the weight of 24 years of being told I'm dangerous, pressing down on me every second. Can you give me that? Yes, Theron says, without hesitation. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. And if you're never ready, if you decide the mate bond isn't what you want, I'll help you build whatever life you choose instead. Just like that? Ilara asks skeptically. You'll just accept it if I reject the bond? Just like that, Theron confirms, because forcing you would be no different than what Shadowfen did, taking away your choices, making you property instead of a person. I'd rather spend my entire life wanting someone I can't have than become the kind of alpha who takes what isn't freely given. Alara studies his face, looking for deception or manipulation, searching for any sign that this is a trap. But all she sees is sincerity and patience and something that looks like hope mixed with sadness. I'm going to need my own space, she says finally. Not shared quarters, not your rooms. Somewhere I can be alone when I need to be. Already arranged, Theron says. There's a cottage at the edge of the palace grounds, near the forest. Private, secure, yours for as long as you want it. Your things from the quarter, what little there was, are already there. Things! I didn't have things. The knife Kaya gave you, Theron clarifies, and a small bundle of clothes that some of the other outcasts said were yours. That's all they found in the barracks. 24 years of life, and all she owns is a knife and a few rags. The reality of how little she had, how completely the outcast quarter stripped away everything except bare survival, hits her with unexpected force. I'll make this work, Alara says, more to herself than to Theron. I'll figure out how to be free. How to be more than just a deathseer who survived too long. How to, she pauses, how to live instead of just surviving. You will, Theron says with absolute confidence. You already started. You chose to save me when you could have stayed invisible. That's living, Alara. That's choosing to matter. She wants to believe him, wants to believe that one choice can change everything, that she can be more than what the outcast quarter made her. But 24 years of conditioning is hard to overcome in a single conversation. Show me the cottage, she says, standing up. I need to see where I'll be staying. Theron leads her there without comment, and Alara finds herself grateful for his silence. The cottage is perfect. Small but comfortable. One large room with a bed and a table and a fireplace. Windows that overlook the forest. A door that locks from the inside. It's not a prison. It's not a barracks. It's hers. I'll have meals delivered if you want, Theron says from the doorway, not entering without invitation. Or you can eat in the main hall with the pack if you prefer. Whatever makes you comfortable. Delivered, Alara says immediately. I'm not ready for crowds yet. Understood. If you need anything, if you want to talk, if you just want company, I'm here. But I won't push. This is your space, your time, your choice. He leaves before she can respond, and Alara finds herself alone in a space that's hers for the first time in 24 years. She locks the door, checks the windows, confirms there are no guards watching, no one monitoring her movements. Then she sits on the bed. Her bed, soft and clean and private, and finally lets herself cry. She cries for the 5-year-old who watched her parents be executed, for the 15-year-old who realized her body was adapting to cursed iron, making her even more of a freak, for the 24-year-old who spent this morning hauling cursed iron and went to sleep expecting tomorrow to be exactly the same as every day before it. She cries for old Marcus and Finn and River and Kaya, and all the outcasts who survived too long in a place designed to kill them slowly, for the ones who didn't survive, whose deaths she saw and couldn't prevent. She cries until she's empty, until there are no more tears left, until the sun has set and the cottage is dark except for moonlight through the windows, and then she sleeps. Actually sleeps deeply and dreamlessly, in a bed that's hers, in a space that's safe, in a life that's suddenly impossibly different. Tomorrow she'll figure out what freedom means. Tonight, she just needs to rest. The first week of freedom is harder than Alara expected. She wakes up every morning at dawn, conditioned by 24 years of morning shift bells, and it takes several minutes of confusion before she remembers. No bells here, no guards, no cursed iron forges. She's free to sleep longer, to wake at her own pace, to do nothing if she wants. The concept of doing nothing is more terrifying than she'd like to admit. Theron keeps his word about space. He doesn't visit unless invited, doesn't pressure her to talk, or train, or do anything except exist. Meals are delivered 3 times a day by various pack members who bow and leave without trying to engage her in conversation. It's perfect. It's isolating. It's exactly what she asked for, and somehow still not enough. On the third day, there's a knock at her cottage door just after breakfast. Alara tenses automatically. Knocks mean guards, guards mean punishment, before remembering where she is. She opens the door to find old Marcus standing there, his weathered face kind. "Thought you might want company," the elderly wolf says, without preamble. "Unless you're embracing the hermit lifestyle, in which case I'll leave you to it." "I'm not," Alara starts, then realizes she doesn't actually know what she is. "Come in." Marcus settles into the chair by the fireplace with the ease of someone who's learned to conserve energy over decades of hard labor. "The others are adapting faster than I expected," he says conversationally. "Finn's already joined the young wolves' training sessions. River's working with the pack's water management team. Apparently, his gift is useful for locating underground sources. Even Kaya's teaching the warriors about fire control techniques." "That's good," Alara says, meaning it. They deserve to have purposes beyond just surviving. "What about you?" Marcus asks gently. "What purpose are you exploring?" "I don't know," Alara admits, sinking onto her bed. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me what to do, where to go, what work I'm assigned, but no one's assigning me anything, no one's demanding my time, and I don't know what to do with that. That's freedom, little seer. It's disorienting at first, especially when you've been told what to do every day for 24 years. But you'll figure it out. You're smart, you're brave, and he pauses. "You're avoiding the Alpha King." "I'm not avoiding him." "You absolutely are. He's asked twice if you'd like to meet for dinner. You said no both times." "I needed space. He said I could have space. Space is one thing, avoidance is another." Marcus leans forward, his expression serious, despite his half-blind eyes. "I'm not saying you owe him anything, Ilara. I'm not saying you have to accept a mate bond, or prophecy, or any of it. But I am saying that he saved all of us because you saved him. And maybe it would be worth talking to the wolf, who cares enough about you to give you exactly what you asked for, even though it's probably driving him crazy to stay away." Alara is quiet for a long moment. "What if he's just being nice because of the prophecy? What if the moment I stop being the mate fate chose? I'm back to being tainted trash." "Then you walk away," Marcus says simply. "You test him. You see if his actions match his words. That's what freedom means, Alara. The ability to test people, to demand they prove they're worthy of your trust, and to walk away if they fail. You couldn't do that in the quarter. You can do it here." After Marcus leaves, Alara thinks about his words, about testing Thorn, about demanding proof that he sees her as a person rather than a prophesied tool. She sends a message through one of the meal delivery wolves. "I'll have dinner with you, but in my cottage, not anywhere public. And you're bringing the food." Theron arrives that evening, carrying enough food for 4 people, his face carefully neutral, but his eyes bright with something that might be hope. He's dressed simply again, dark pants, simple shirt, nothing regal or intimidating. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he says, setting the food on her table. "I was starting to worry I'd said something wrong the last time we talked." "You didn't," Alara says, taking a seat. "I just needed time to adjust. Marcus says I'm avoiding you." "Are you?" "Yes, but I'm working on it." Theron's smile is small but genuine. "That's fair. This is a lot to process." They eat in silence for a few minutes before Alara forces herself to speak. "Tell me about the prophecy. All of it. Not just the parts that make it sound romantic or destined. I want to know what you've been doing for the last however many years to fulfill it." Theron sets down his fork, his expression turning serious. "I've spent the last 8 years since I realized I was the unkillable king, gathering information about the outcast quarter system. How many packs use it? How many gifted wolves are imprisoned? What conditions are like? What legal justifications they use? I've been building alliances with alphas who oppose the system, working with the council to find legal ways to intervene, and planning liberation operations for when legal channels failed. Like Shadowfen, Alara says. Like Shadowfen, Thorn agrees. That quarter was one of the worst. Cursed iron exposure, starvation rations, guards who beat outcasts for entertainment. I've been planning to extract those prisoners for 2 years, but I needed legal justification that the council couldn't ignore. Then you saved me from the thorn chains. And you had your justification, Alara finishes. An outcast leaving the quarter to save an alpha king, public interest, heroic narrative, impossible for Shadowfen to spin as dangerous outcasts escaping to harm pure-blooded wolves. Exactly. Theron doesn't look apologetic. I won't pretend I didn't use the opportunity you created. But Alara, I didn't manipulate you into creating it. You chose to help me. Everything after was me honoring that choice by extending help to your fellow outcasts. What about the other quarters? Alara asks. You said there are more. 16 more across the 12 northern packs, Theron says grimly. Some as bad as Shadowfen, some worse. All of them imprisoning gifted wolves under the guise of protection. I'm planning to shut down every single one. But it takes time. The council moves slowly. Alphas resist change, and every liberation risks war with packs who profit from outcast labor. So you need me, Alara says slowly. You need my testimony about Shadowfen. You need the Death Seer from the prophecy to be your public face, to make the council take this seriously. I do need your testimony, Theron admits. Your survival is proof that the quarters are death camps, not protective settlements. But I don't need you to be my public face, Alara. I need you to be willing to share your story, to help me convince the council that this system needs to end. That's it. You don't have to be anyone's savior or hero or mate. You just have to be willing to tell the truth about what you survived. And if I say no? Then I find another way, Theron says immediately. Your freedom is more important than my campaign. I won't trade one prison for another by forcing you into a role you don't want. Alara studies him, looking for deception, testing his words against his actions. He's given her space when she asked for it. He's feeding the outcasts, housing them, asking nothing in return. He's patient when she avoids him, and grateful when she agrees to meet. His actions match his words. I'll testify, she says quietly, not because of the prophecy or the mate bond, because old Marcus and Finn and River and Kaya and all the others deserve justice for what was done to them. Because there are gifted wolves still suffering in those other quarters who deserve to be free. I'll tell the council everything about Shadowfen if it helps shut them all down. Theron's relief is visible. Thank you, that means more than you know. But, Alara continues, I have conditions. I want to visit the other outcasts regularly. I want to train, learn to fight, learn to use my gift for something besides avoiding eye contact, learn to be more than just a survivor. And I want you to stop treating me like I'm fragile. I survived 24 years of cursed iron and death visions. I'm not going to break just because someone's honest with me. Deal, Theron says immediately. Training starts whenever you're ready. Visits to the other outcasts are encouraged. They ask about you constantly. And I'll try to remember you're not fragile, though forgive me if I worry sometimes. You did almost die absorbing death curses to save me. That was a tactical decision, not a suicide mission, Alara says dryly. I knew my adaptation would handle it. I just underestimated how much curse was concentrated in those chains. Your adaptation, Theron repeats. The cursed iron immunity, how does that work exactly? Alara hesitates, then decides honesty is fair. I don't know exactly. Around year 15 in the quarter, I noticed the cursed iron wasn't killing me as fast as it killed others. My body started adapting. absorbing curses instead of being poisoned by them. It still hurts, still scars, but it doesn't kill me. And apparently it works on other dark magic too, like thorn chains. That's extraordinary, Theron says, and incredibly rare. I've heard of curse eaters, wolves who can absorb and neutralize dark magic, but they're supposed to be 1 in a million, maybe rarer. So I'm a death seer and a curse eater, Alara says flatly. Double tainted. I'm sure the pure-blooded wolves will love that. The pure-blooded wolves who matter will recognize that both gifts are valuable tools that could save lives. Theron corrects. The ones who don't matter can keep their prejudices to themselves or leave my territory. They talk for another hour. About training schedules, about the other outcasts' adaptations, about small things that have nothing to do with prophecies or mate bonds. When Theron finally leaves, Alara finds herself less exhausted than she expected. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe avoiding him was making everything harder instead of easier. She starts training the next morning. The training yard is intimidating. Dozens of wolves in both human and animal form practicing combat techniques, their movements precise and deadly. Alara stands at the edge, her old instincts screaming at her to be invisible, to not draw attention, to slip away before someone notices she doesn't belong. "You must be Alara," says a voice, and a woman approaches, tall, muscular, with scars across her arms and a smile that's more terrifying than friendly. "I'm Astrid, head of the warrior training. The Alpha King said you wanted to learn to fight." "Yes," Alara forces herself to say. "I don't know anything about combat. In the quarter, fighting back just meant more punishment." "Then we start from the beginning," Astrid says, leading her to a quieter section of the yard. "First lesson, you're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to hit things. This isn't the outcast quarter. Nobody here is going to punish you for existing visibly." It takes 3 days for Alara to land her first real punch on the training dummy without flinching in anticipation of punishment. It takes a week before she can spar with Astrid without keeping her eyes fixed on the ground. It takes 2 weeks before she can shift to her wolf form in front of others without feeling like she's exposing herself to danger. Her wolf is small, omega-sized, lean rather than powerful, with pale gray fur and eyes that glow silver when her death sight activates. She's not built for combat like the pack warriors, but Astrid teaches her to use speed and agility instead of strength. "You're a survivor," the warrior says after a particularly good training session. "Your instincts are honed from years of avoiding danger. We're just teaching you to redirect those instincts toward active defense instead of passive avoidance." Finn joins her training sessions in week 3, the young wolf eager to learn alongside someone who understands what the outcast quarter was like. They push each other, compete in friendly ways, and slowly, Alara starts to feel less isolated. She also starts taking walks through the palace grounds, mapping out the territory, learning the spaces where she feels comfortable. The forest edge becomes her favorite, far enough from the main pack areas that she can be alone, close enough to her cottage that she can retreat when overwhelmed. It's on one of these walks, 6 weeks after arriving in the Northern Territories, that she encounters a problem. 3 wolves block her path, pure-blooded pack members in human form. 2 males and a female, all wearing expressions of disgust. The female speaks first. "You're the Death Seer, the tainted one the Alpha King brought here." Alara's instincts scream at her to run, to avoid eye contact, to be invisible. But she's been training with Astrid for 6 weeks. She's learned to take up space. "I'm Alara," she says, keeping her voice steady. "And I'm a member of this pack under the Alpha King's protection." "You're a freak," one of the males snarls. "An outcast who should have stayed in the quarter where you belong. You don't belong here with normal wolves." "The Alpha King seems to disagree," Alara says, her hands clenching into fists. "The Alpha King is being fooled by a prophecy that's probably fake," the female says. "You're using your tainted gifts to manipulate him. Everyone knows outcasts are dangerous." Alara's gift activates involuntarily, triggered by stress and direct confrontation. She sees how all three of these wolves will die. The female in a territorial dispute in 12 years, throat torn out by a rival pack. The larger male from disease in 8 years, his body failing slowly. The smaller male in a training accident in 5 years, neck broken from a fall. She sees their deaths, and she feels nothing. No compassion, no desire to warn them, just cold acknowledgement that they're wolves who will die like every other wolf dies. I don't need to manipulate anyone, she says coldly. I saved the Alpha King's life. I testified about Shadowfen's crimes. And I'm not going anywhere just because you're uncomfortable with gifts you don't understand. If you have a problem with my presence here, take it up with the Alpha King. We're taking it up with you, the larger male says, stepping closer. Leave. Go back to whatever hole you crawled out of, or we'll make you leave. Alara's wolf rises in her chest, ready to shift, ready to defend herself. 6 weeks of training with Astrid has taught her she can fight back, can refuse to be invisible. Is there a problem here? Theron's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. The Alpha King appears from the tree line, his ice-blue eyes cold as they survey the three wolves confronting Alara. All three immediately drop their gazes, showing submission. No, Alpha King, the female says quickly. We were just talking to. You were threatening my mate, Theron interrupts, his voice deadly quiet. I could hear you from 100 yards away, telling her to leave my territory, calling her tainted and dangerous, threatening to make her leave if she didn't go voluntarily. We didn't mean, the larger male starts. Yes, you did, Theron says flatly. You meant every word, and now you're going to face consequences for those words. You have two choices: public apology to Alara in front of the full pack, acknowledging that your prejudices were wrong and that she's a valued member of this territory, or you leave my lands permanently within 24 hours. Choose. The three wolves exchange glances, clearly not expecting such harsh consequences. Alpha King, the female tries. We're pack-born. We've been here our whole lives. You can't just exile us for threatening my mate? Yes, I absolutely can. Choose now. We choose apology, the larger male says quickly, the other two nodding agreement. Good. Tomorrow evening, main hall, in front of the entire pack. Be prepared to explain exactly why your treatment of Alara was wrong and what you've learned. Dismissed. The three wolves leave quickly, not looking back. Alara waits until they're out of earshot before speaking. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Theron says, his expression softening as he looks at her. You're under my protection. Allowing pack members to threaten you undermines that protection and sends a message that outcasts aren't truly safe here. I won't allow that message to spread. I could have handled them, Alara says, and she means it. Astrid's been training me. I'm not helpless. I know, Theron says. I've been watching your training sessions, not to spy, but because Astrid sends me progress reports on all warriors. You're improving rapidly. But handling them yourself doesn't mean I should let the threat stand. They need to understand that prejudice against gifted wolves has consequences in my territory. You called me your mate, Alara points out. In front of them, made it official. I did, Theron admits. I probably should have asked first, but in the moment, it felt like the fastest way to make them understand that threatening you means challenging me directly. If you want me to make a public statement that we're not actually mates yet, I will. Alara is quiet for a moment, processing. He's right that using the mate claim gave his protection more weight. Wrong that he didn't ask first. She should be angry about it, but mostly she's just tired of dancing around the issue. We need to talk about the mate bond, she says. Really talk. Not avoid it or pretend it's not hovering over every interaction. Agreed, Theron says immediately. Your cottage or somewhere else? Forest, Alara decides. Somewhere neutral. They walk in silence to a clearing Alara discovered during her explorations, a space ringed by ancient trees with moss-covered stones that make decent seating. Theron waits for her to sit first, then positions himself across from her, close enough to talk comfortably, far enough to give her space. "I don't know what being mates means," Alara says bluntly. "I've spent 24 years being told I'm too tainted to ever have a mate, too dangerous to be allowed normal pack bonds. The concept of someone choosing me, of being chosen by someone, I don't have context for what that looks like." "That's fair," Theron says. "For most wolves, mate bonds are partnerships, equals who choose each other, who support each other's strengths, and balance each other's weaknesses. There's a magical component. True mates recognize each other through scent or touch or just instinct, but the magic doesn't force compatibility. It just signals potential. The actual relationship still requires both people choosing to make it work. And you felt that potential when I touched the thorn chains." "Yes. My wolf recognized yours immediately, recognized you as the one the prophecy mentioned, as my mate, as—" he pauses, "as home. I felt the bond snap into place like something clicking into alignment that had been off-center my entire life." "But I didn't feel anything," Alara says. "Because the bond needs to be completed," Theron explains. "Right now it's one-sided. I feel the pull toward you, the recognition, the certainty, but you won't feel it until we both accept it consciously, until we choose each other with full awareness." "What if I choose not to accept it?" Alara asks. "What if I decide I don't want a mate bond, prophecy or not?" Theron is quiet for a long moment, his ice-blue eyes holding hers. "Then the bond remains incomplete, and I spend my life knowing my mate exists, but chose differently. It would hurt, but I'd respect your decision." "Would you find someone else?" "No, true mates are once in a lifetime. If you reject the bond, I remain alone. But Ilara, that's my consequence to bear, not your responsibility to prevent. Your choices are yours. They should never be made out of guilt or obligation." Alara looks away, staring at the moss-covered stones. "I'm afraid." "Of me?" "Of becoming property again," she admits. "Of the bond taking away the freedom I just found. Of being the Alpha King's mate, instead of just Ilara. Of losing myself to something I can't control." Theron moves slightly closer, not touching, but present. "The mate bond doesn't work that way. It doesn't take away self. It connects two separate, complete individuals. You remain Ilara, your thoughts, your choices, your autonomy. I remain Theron. We just become stronger together than apart." "How do you know?" Alara challenges. "If the bond isn't complete yet, how do you know what it's like?" "Because I've studied it," Theron says. "Spent years reading everything I could find about true mate bonds, trying to understand what it means to be prophesied to find your mate. And every source says the same thing. Forced bonds break. Controlled bonds shatter. The only mate bonds that thrive are partnerships between equals who both choose freely. Control destroys it, which means the bond itself protects your autonomy, because losing your autonomy would break what we're trying to build." Ilara wants to believe him, wants to believe that the bond won't trap her, that she can be mated and free simultaneously. But 24 years of being told she's dangerous, tainted, wrong. That's not easy to overcome. "I need more time," she says finally. "Not to decide forever. Just to keep learning who I am without the outcast quarter defining me. To see if I can be Ilara the warrior, Ilara the curse eater, Ilara the survivor, who's becoming something more. And then maybe I can figure out if I can also be Ilara the mate." "Take all the time you need," Theron says softly. "I'm not going anywhere." They sit in silence for a while, watching the forest move around them. Eventually, Ilara speaks again. "The public apology tomorrow. I want to speak after them." "About what?" "About what it means to be gifted. About why the outcast quarter system is wrong. About how prejudice like theirs is what enables places like Shadowfen to exist." She meets his eyes. If I'm going to testify to the council anyway, I might as well start practicing speaking publicly. Might as well let your pack see that I'm not going to hide or be invisible anymore. Theron's smile is brilliant. You're going to be incredible. I'm going to be terrified, Alara corrects. But I'm going to do it anyway. Because old Marcus was right. Freedom means testing people, demanding they prove they're worthy of trust, and refusing to be silent when they're wrong. Those 3 wolves were wrong, and I'm going to tell the entire pack exactly why. The next evening, the main hall is packed with wolves, eager to see the promised public apology. Alara stands beside Thorn at the front, her heart racing, her hands shaking slightly, with nerves she's trying to suppress. The 3 wolves who threatened her step forward, their expressions resentful but resigned. The female speaks first, her words clearly rehearsed. We apologize to Alara for our words yesterday. We spoke from prejudice and fear rather than knowledge. She has proven her value to this pack through her actions, and we were wrong to suggest otherwise. It's a terrible apology. No acknowledgement of what they said, no real contrition, just words designed to fulfill the Alpha King's requirement without actually changing anything. Thorn looks at Alara, silently asking if she wants him to demand better. She shakes her head slightly. This is perfect, actually. Their hollow apology makes her response even more necessary. Thank you for your apology, Alara says, stepping forward. Her voice is shaking, but she forces herself to speak clearly. But I want to address the beliefs behind your words, because you're not alone in holding them. She turns to face the assembled pack. Hundreds of eyes watching her. Her gift tries to activate, tries to show her how all these wolves will die, but she forces it down through sheer will. I spent 24 years in the Shadowfen outcast quarter, she says. 24 years being told I was tainted, dangerous, wrong, that my gift, the ability to see death, made me an abomination, that gifted wolves like me needed to be separated from normal wolves for everyone's safety. Her voice strengthens as she continues. But I learned something in those 24 years. The wolves who called me dangerous were the ones forcing children to work cursed iron forges. The wolves who called me wrong were the ones executing parents for having gifted children. The wolves who called me tainted were the ones running death camps and calling them protective settlements. She can see some pack members shifting uncomfortably, recognizing the truth in her words. My gift lets me see how living things will die. It's not pleasant. It's not something I'd choose if I had a choice. But it's also saved lives. I saw the Alpha King dying in the Forbidden Woods, which is how I knew to help him. I saw the consequences of his death, which is why I chose to risk everything to prevent it. My dangerous gift prevented catastrophe. Alara looks directly at the 3 wolves who threatened her. You told me I don't belong here, that I should go back to the hole I crawled out of. That hole was the Shadowfen quarter. It was a place where gifted wolves died slowly from cursed iron exposure, where children watched their parents be executed for crimes they didn't commit, where the only crime was being different. And you want to send me back there because you're uncomfortable with gifts you don't understand. She turns back to the full pack. Here's what I want every wolf here to understand. Gifted wolves aren't dangerous because of our gifts. We're dangerous to systems that profit from oppression. We're dangerous to prejudices that justify cruelty. We're dangerous to wolves who'd rather maintain comfortable lies than confront uncomfortable truths. And yes, that makes us dangerous. Dangerous to wolves who deserve to be challenged. The hall is completely silent. The Alpha King has offered me a place in this pack, Alara continues. Not despite being a Death Seer, but because he recognizes that different gifts mean different strengths. He's offered the same to 47 other gifted wolves who survived Shadowfen. We're here. We're not leaving. And we're going to keep being visibly, uncomfortably present until every wolf in these territories understands that gifted doesn't mean tainted. It means powerful in ways that scare people who prefer we stay invisible. She steps back, her heart racing, her hands shaking, but her head high. Theron steps forward, Ilara has spoken truth that many of you needed to hear. The outcast quarter system is an abomination that I will spend the rest of my reign dismantling. Any wolf in my territory who threatens, belittles, or attempts to harm gifted wolves will face immediate exile. This is not negotiable. We are pack, all of us, gifts included. The three wolves who gave the hollow apology look stunned, clearly not expecting their punishment to trigger a pack-wide policy change. Good, Ilara thinks. Let them realize their prejudice has consequences beyond themselves. After the assembly, Ilara escapes to her cottage, exhausted from the emotional labor of speaking publicly. She's barely settled when there's a knock at the door. It's Finn, the young outcast who'd wanted to come with her to save Thorn. His face is glowing with pride. That was incredible, Seer. You told the whole pack why we matter. Made them see us as wolves instead of freaks. We're not freaks, Ilara says firmly. We're just different, and different isn't wrong. I know that now, Finn says, because you showed us. You stood there in front of everyone and refused to be ashamed of your gift. That's what a Luna does, isn't it? Protects the pack, especially the ones who can't protect themselves yet. Ilara blinks, the word Luna hitting her like a physical blow. She hasn't let herself think about that title. Hasn't connected her actions to the role Theron's mate would traditionally fill. I'm not Luna, she says quickly. Maybe not officially, Finn says with a knowing smile. But you're acting like one, making the pack safer for wolves like us. Teaching them that we matter. That's what Lunas do. After Finn leaves, Ilara sits in her cottage thinking about his words. About how she's been acting. About how she spoke publicly about gifted wolves' worth. Defended outcasts to the pack. Challenged prejudice despite her fear. About how those actions align with Luna responsibilities, even though she hasn't accepted the mate bond. About how maybe, possibly, she's been testing Thorn by acting like Luna without the title, seeing if he'd expect her to do the work without granting the authority. But he hasn't. He supported her, backed her policies, given her platform and protection. He's let her be Luna in practice while respecting that she's not ready for the title. Maybe that's the proof she needed. Maybe actions really do match words. She falls asleep that night thinking about possibilities instead of fears, about futures instead of past trauma, about how maybe, just maybe, she's ready to stop testing and start trusting. 3 months after her arrival in the Northern Territories, Ilara stands before the Council of Alphas, the governing body that oversees all shifter packs in the northern regions. The council chamber is massive, designed to intimidate, with a curved stone table where 12 alphas sit in judgment and a single chair in the center where witnesses testify. Ilara has been preparing for this moment since she agreed to speak publicly. Thorn has coached her on council politics, on which alphas are sympathetic and which will be hostile. Astrid has taught her how to project confidence, even when terrified. Old Marcus has reminded her repeatedly that she's not on trial. The outcast quarter system is. But standing here now, with 12 pairs of alpha eyes assessing her, she feels every bit the frightened child who watched her parents be executed for having a gifted daughter. State your name for the record, says Alpha Cornelius, the council head, an ancient wolf with gray hair and eyes that have seen too much to be easily swayed. Ilara, she says, keeping her voice steady. No pack name. My birth pack was destroyed when I was 5. You are the Death Seer that Alpha King Theron has brought before us, Cornelius continues. You claim to have survived 24 years in the Shadowfen Outcast Quarter. Is this correct? It's not a claim, it's fact. I was imprisoned there from age 5 to age 24. Imprisoned is a strong word. Interrupts Alpha Vasilis of Shadowfen, a large male with cruel eyes and a mouth that twists with disgust when he looks at her. The Outcast Quarter is a protective settlement designed to keep gifted wolves safe while preventing their powers from harming pure-blooded pack members. Is that what you call forcing 5-year-olds to work cursed iron forges? Ilara asks, meeting his eyes directly. Her gift activates immediately, showing her his death, murdered by his own beta in 7 years, throat torn out in a coup. She feels no sympathy. Protection? The work is necessary, Vasilis says coldly. Someone must handle cursed iron, and gifted wolves have proven resistant to its effects. Resistant? Alara's voice rises, despite her attempts to stay calm. We die from it. Most outcasts don't survive past their mid-20s because cursed iron poisoning destroys our wolves. I survived because my body adapted, developed curse-eating abilities that are apparently 1 in a million rare. I'm the exception, Alpha Vasilis. Every other wolf I knew died from the necessary work you forced on us. You speak of necessary deaths as if they're tragedy. Vasilis sneers. Gifted wolves are dangerous. Your very presence here proves it. You see death, manipulate curses, represent everything wrong with allowing unnatural magic to persist in our bloodlines. Enough! Cornelius interrupts. Alpha Vasili, you will allow the witness to testify without interruption. Continue, Ilara. Tell us about the conditions in the outcast quarter. Ilara takes a breath and begins. She describes the 20-foot walls, the guards who shot anyone attempting to leave, the cursed iron forges that ran 16 hours a day. She talks about starvation rations, about communal barracks packed so tight you could hear your neighbor's nightmares, about the lack of medical care for wolves whose bodies were breaking down from curse exposure. She describes watching her parents be executed in front of the quarter when she was 5. Describes her brother Marcus dying at 8 from lung sickness caused by forge air. Describes old Marcus, nearly 70 and half-blind from decades of work. Describes Finn, only 16, and already showing signs of curse poisoning. You're describing unfortunate conditions, says Alpha Helena, a female alpha known for her neutral stance, but not necessarily illegal treatment. Pack alphas have wide latitude in managing their territories, including how they handle gifted wolves deemed dangerous. Then let me describe the executions, Alara says flatly. Guards would beat outcasts to death for small infractions, looking at them wrong, moving too slowly, speaking without permission. They'd leave bodies in the barracks as warnings. No trials, no investigations, just murder dressed up as discipline. Do you have proof of these executions? Asks Alpha Mikhail, a scholarly alpha who takes detailed notes. I have testimony from 47 witnesses who lived through it, Alara says, all of them extracted by Alpha King Theron's warriors. All of them willing to testify about what they survived. And I have this. She holds up her hands, unwrapping the bandages that still cover her palms. The scars are horrific. Layers upon layers of curse damage. Some healed, some still healing, creating a map of 24 years of forced labor. The council members lean forward, examining the evidence. These scars are from cursed iron? Mikhail asks. From cursed iron, from absorbing Thorn curse to free the Alpha King, from every time I had to touch magic that should have killed me, just to survive another day. My body adapted. Most don't. Most die, and their deaths are just listed as natural causes, or unfortunate losses, in official reports that make the outcast quarter system look sustainable instead of genocidal. That's a serious accusation, Cornelia says. Genocide implies intent to destroy a population. Then let me be clear about intent, Alara says, her voice hard. The outcast quarter system imprisons gifted wolves from childhood, forces them into labor that kills them slowly, denies them medical care, adequate food, or any chance of leaving, executes anyone who resists, and when they die, replaces them with newly captured gifted wolves from conquered packs. That's not protection. That's systematic elimination of wolves deemed undesirable, dressed up in legal language that lets alphas like Vasilis profit from our deaths while claiming it's for everyone's safety. You speak well for someone who claims to have been oppressed, Vasilis snarls. Perhaps too well. Perhaps this entire testimony is coached performance designed to gain sympathy. I learned to speak in the quarter, Alara says coldly. Old Marcus taught me using scratches in dirt, because they didn't give us paper or education. I learned despite your system, not because of it. And yes, Alpha King Theron helped me prepare this testimony, helped me organize my thoughts, helped me understand council politics. But the experiences I'm describing are mine. The scars are mine. The deaths I witnessed are mine. No amount of coaching changes that truth. Thorn, sitting in the gallery reserved for non-council alphas, watches her with undisguised pride. He hasn't interrupted once, hasn't tried to speak for her or soften her words. He's let her tell her story her way, supported her preparation, but respected her voice. It's exactly what a true partner would do. Let's discuss your gift specifically, Mikhail says. You're a death seer. You see how living things will die. Is this correct? Yes. And this gift is what caused your parents' execution? Yes. I saw my father's death when I was 5, saw him being executed by Alpha Command. I tried to warn him. 3 days later, the Alpha decided parents of a death seer must have summoned demons and executed them exactly as I'd foreseen. Can you control this gift? Helena asks. Not completely. It activates automatically when I make eye contact with living things. I've learned to avoid looking at people directly, to keep my gaze down, to suppress the visions when possible. But control is limited. And you've never used this gift to harm anyone? How would I? Alara asks. I see deaths. I don't cause them. Seeing someone's future death doesn't give me power over it. I can warn people, but fate is stubborn. Deaths happen regardless of warnings. But you could use knowledge of how someone will die to exploit them, suggests Vasilis. Could blackmail them, manipulate them with fear. I could, Alara agrees. Just like pure-blooded alphas could use their physical strength to murder innocents, or use their political power to imprison gifted children. Having power doesn't mean using it for evil. That's a choice, Alpha Vasilis. And I'm not the one who chose to build death camps for children. The chamber erupts in argument. Several alphas object to her characterizing the quarters as death camps. Others demand she provide more evidence. Vasilis demands she be held in contempt for disrespecting the council. Cornelius bangs his gavel. Order! We will have order. He looks at Ilara. You've made serious accusations. Can you provide specific examples? Names, dates, circumstances of deaths you witnessed? Ilara closes her eyes for a moment, steeling herself. Then she begins listing names. Wolves who died in the Shadowfen quarter while she was there. How they died, when they died, ages, circumstances, everything she remembers from 24 years of witnessing death. She talks for an hour. The council sits in stunned silence as name after name piles up. Children who died from curse poisoning, adults executed for minor infractions, elderly wolves who simply gave up. By the time she finishes, she's listed over 300 deaths across 24 years. 300 deaths, Mikhail says quietly. In 1 quarter. Over 2 decades. And there are 16 more quarters across your territories, Ilara says. Each with similar death rates. Each imprisoning gifted wolves who've committed no crimes except being born different. How many thousands have died while you've debated whether the system is protective enough to justify the cost? Cornelius looks at Vasilis. Alpha Vasilis, do you have records that refute these numbers? I have records showing far fewer deaths, Vasilis says quickly. This witness is clearly exaggerating. I can provide bodies, Ilara interrupts. The quarter has a mass grave in the Forbidden Woods. Unmarked, unconsecrated. Just a pit where they dump anyone who dies. I know where it is. We can count the bodies if you want physical proof instead of just my testimony. The silence that follows is absolute. I think, Cornelius says slowly, we have heard enough for today. The council will deliberate on what actions, if any, should be taken regarding the outcast quarter system. Witness dismissed. Ilara stands, her legs shaking but her head high. She's done what she came to do, told the truth. Force the council to confront reality instead of comfortable lies. Theron meets her outside the chamber, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. You were incredible in there, brutal, honest, compelling. You didn't hold back anything. Couldn't afford to, Alara says, her voice hoarse from talking for so long. They need to understand what the quarters really are. What happened to us? What's still happening to gifted wolves in the other quarters? They understand now, Theron assures her. After that testimony, after those numbers, even the sympathetic alphas, who thought the quarters were just poorly managed, realized they're looking at systematic genocide. Vasilis's objections just made him look complicit. Will it be enough? Alara asks. Will they shut down the quarters? I don't know, Theron admits. The council moves slowly, but you've given them evidence they can't ignore, testimony they can't dismiss as exaggeration. And more importantly, you've given the other outcasts courage to speak. Several of them have asked if they can testify too. That evening, back in her cottage, Alara receives visitors. First, old Marcus, who brings her tea and tells her she made her parents proud. Then Finn, who says her testimony inspired him to write down his own experiences. Then River, then Kaya, then more outcasts, each thanking her for giving voice to what they survived. By the time they leave, Alara is exhausted, but also strangely light. She's spent 24 years being told to be invisible, to stay silent, to accept that her existence was something to be hidden. Today she was visible, loud, undeniable. Today she mattered. There's another knock, and Alara opens the door, expecting another outcast. Instead, she finds Theron holding 2 plates of food. Thought you might not want to go to the dining hall tonight, he says. Too many people wanting to discuss the testimony. Figured you could use quiet instead. You figured right, Alara says, stepping aside to let him in. They eat in comfortable silence for a while before Theron speaks. I meant what I said earlier. You were incredible today. The way you held your ground against Vasilis. The way you made the council actually confront what they've been ignoring. That took courage I'm not sure I could have managed. You're literally called the unkillable king, Alara points out. You face death regularly. Physical death, yes. But standing in front of 12 alphas and describing your trauma, making yourself vulnerable while demanding they see you as strong, that's a different kind of courage. That's the courage of someone who's been broken but refuses to stay broken. Alara is quiet for a moment. I wasn't brave in the quarter. I was invisible, kept my head down, never fought back, just survived. That was brave too, Theron says gently. Different kind of brave. Surviving when everything is designed to break you. That's not cowardice, Alara. That's strength. You were just using your strength for survival instead of resistance. Today you got to use it for resistance, but both were brave. You always know what to say, Alara says, not sure if it's a compliment or a complaint. I've had 8 years to think about what I'd say to my mate when I found her, Theron admits. Lot of time to prepare speeches about why she's strong, why she matters, why I'm honored she exists. I was worried all those prepared speeches would sound hollow when the moment came. But with you, they're not hollow, they're just true. I'm thinking about accepting the bond, Alara says abruptly, the words escaping before she can second-guess them. Theron goes very still. You are? Not yet, Alara clarifies quickly. I'm still not ready, still figuring out who I am, but I'm thinking about it. Considering it as a future possibility instead of a threat to avoid. That's progress, right? That's enormous progress, Theron says, his voice rough with emotion. And I'll wait as long as you need. There's no timeline, no pressure. Just, thank you. Thank you for even considering it instead of rejecting it outright. You've earned consideration, Alara says simply. Every day you prove you see me as a person. You give me space when I need it, support when I ask for it, respect when I demand it. You let me be Luna in practice without forcing the title. You've backed my testimony, my training, my choices. That's what partnership looks like, isn't it? Supporting each other without controlling each other, yes, Theron says. That's exactly what it looks like. They talk for hours about the testimony, about what comes next with the council, about small things that have nothing to do with prophecies or mate bonds. When Theron finally leaves, Alara finds herself thinking about possibilities, about what it might feel like to complete the bond, to feel what he feels, to be connected on a level deeper than words or actions, about whether she's brave enough to try. The Council of Alphas takes 6 weeks to deliberate after Alara's testimony. 6 weeks of waiting, of preparing for potential war if the Council sides with Alphas like Vasilis, of training the freed outcasts to defend themselves if necessary. When the verdict comes, it's more aggressive than Alara dared hope. The Council has ruled, Alpha Cornelius announces in a formal assembly. The outcast quarter system is hereby declared illegal across all northern territories. All quarters are to be dismantled within 90 days. All imprisoned gifted wolves are to be granted full pack membership or safe passage to other territories of their choosing. Any alpha who refuses compliance will face immediate censure and potential removal from pack leadership. The response is explosive. Half the assembled alphas cheer. The other half, those who profit from outcast labor, object loudly, threatening to withdraw from the council, to declare independence, to go to war rather than comply. Vasilis is the loudest objector. This is tyranny disguised as justice. The council has no authority to dictate how packs manage dangerous gifted wolves. The council has every authority to prevent genocide. Cornelius responds coldly, which is what the quarters have been engaging in. If you cannot manage gifted wolves without imprisoning and working them to death, perhaps you're not fit to lead a pack. You'll regret this, Vasilis snarls, his eyes finding Alara in the gallery. All of you will regret listening to a tainted deathseer who manipulated you with lies. Her testimony was corroborated by 47 witnesses, Mikhail interjects. And by the mass grave, we discovered exactly where she said it would be. 312 bodies, Alpha Vasilis. We counted them. Would you like to claim those are lies too? Vasilis storms out, taking several sympathetic alphas with him. The remaining council members begin discussing enforcement mechanisms and support for freed outcasts. Theron finds Alara after the session. We won. The quarters are being shut down. 90 days, Alara says. That's a long time. What happens to the outcasts still imprisoned during that time? What if alphas like Vasilis decide to eliminate evidence before the quarters are inspected? Theron's expression turns grim. That's exactly what I'm worried about, which is why I'm not waiting 90 days. I'm mobilizing my warriors tonight to extract outcasts from the quarters most at risk, starting with the ones run by alphas who voted against the council ruling. I want to help, Alara says immediately. Absolutely not. These will be dangerous operations. I survived 24 years in one of those quarters. Alara interrupts. I know the layouts, the schedules, the weak points, and my curse-eating gift means I can handle any magical wards they're using to keep outcasts trapped. You need me, Theron. Stop trying to protect me from being useful. Theron looks like he wants to argue, but Astrid appears behind them. She's right. We need someone who knows how the quarters work from the inside. And frankly, her presence will help scared outcasts trust us. They'll recognize her from the testimony. Fine, Theron concedes. But you're staying with me during operations. If something goes wrong, I need to be able to protect you. I don't need protection, Alara starts. Everyone needs protection sometimes, Theron says firmly. Even warriors, even deathseers who can eat curses. Let me be your partner in this, Alara. Let me watch your back while you watch mine. Partnership, the word that's been defining their relationship. Alara nods slowly. Okay. Partners. The first liberation operation targets the Iron Peak Quarter, run by Alpha Garan, who voted against the council ruling and has been making threatening statements about dealing with the outcast problem permanently. Theron's intelligence suggests Goran is planning to execute all his imprisoned outcasts rather than release them. They can't let that happen. The team consists of 20 warriors, Theron's elite Silent Fangs, plus Ilara, plus 3 freed Shadowfen outcasts who volunteered to help. Kaya for her fire-starting abilities, River for his water manipulation, and surprisingly, old Marcus, who insists his 70 years of surviving quarters makes him an expert consultant. They approach at night, moving silently through the forest surrounding the Iron Peak quarter. Alara's gift activates repeatedly, showing her how various guards will die, most in combat within the next few hours, victims of the operation about to unfold. She tries not to feel guilty about that. These guards have been torturing outcasts for years. Their deaths are consequence, not tragedy. The quarter walls are taller than Shadowfen's, 25 feet instead of 20, with magical wards woven into the stone that burn anyone who tries to climb without proper authorization. But Ilara's curse-eating gift makes her immune. She approaches the wall, while the warriors create distractions on the opposite side. Touches the stone, feels the wards trying to activate, trying to burn her, trying to alert guards to the intrusion. She absorbs the magic, neutralizes it, creates a safe passage. "Clear," she whispers, and the team starts climbing. Inside, the quarter is horrifyingly familiar. The same layout as Shadowfen: barracks, forges, guards' quarters. The same smell of cursed iron and despair. The same weight of suffering pressed into every stone. They find the outcasts in the barracks, 53 gifted wolves, ranging from children to elderly, all sleeping restlessly on narrow cots. River moves among them quietly, waking them one by one, explaining in whispers what's happening. Most are too shocked to respond. A few cry silently. One young girl, maybe 8 years old, looks at Ilara with eyes that have seen too much and whispers, "Are you the Death Seer, the one who testified?" "Yes," Ilara says, kneeling to the girl's level. "And we're getting you out of here, all of you. You're going to be free." "My gift is fire," the girl whispers. "Like hers." She points at Kaya. "They said I'm dangerous, that I'll hurt people if I'm not locked up." "You're not dangerous," Ilara says firmly. "Your gift is powerful, and powerful isn't the same as dangerous. We're taking you somewhere you'll be safe to learn control instead of being locked away for existing, kiss." The extraction goes smoothly until they're halfway out. Then alarms start blaring. Someone discovered the disabled wards. Guards pour out of their quarters, armed and aggressive. "Get the outcasts over the wall," Theron orders his warriors. "Ilara, stay close. Marcus, help River organize the evacuation." Fighting erupts. Theron shifts to his massive white wolf form, becoming a whirlwind of teeth and claws. His warriors follow suit, engaging guards who are trying to prevent the outcasts from escaping. Ilara finds herself face to face with a guard who grabs her arm. "You're that Death Seer, the one causing all this trouble." Her gift activates involuntarily. She sees his death, killed by Theron in approximately 30 seconds, throat torn out. She could warn him, could give him a chance to run, to survive. She stays silent. Theron's jaws close around the guard's throat exactly 30 seconds later, exactly as she foresaw. The guard falls. Theron shifts back to human form, blood on his mouth, his ice blue eyes checking to make sure she's unharmed. "I'm fine," Ilara says. "Keep fighting. I'll help the last group over the wall." She climbs the wall with the final 5 outcasts, all children under 10, all terrified, all looking at her like she's a miracle, instead of just a wolf who refused to stay silent. By dawn, all 53 Iron Peak outcasts are safely in Northern Territory. 3 guards are dead. 5 more are injured. None of Theron's warriors were killed, though several have injuries that will take days to heal. It's a victory, but Ilara feels the weight of those 3 guard deaths. She saw them coming. Could have warned them, chose not to. "You're thinking too much about the guards," Kaya says, appearing beside her as the sun rises. "They were torturing children, Ilara. Deathseer or not, you're not responsible for saving wolves who chose cruelty. I know, Alara says. It just feels strange, having power to prevent deaths, but choosing not to use it. That's not your gift being dangerous, Kaya says. That's you making strategic decisions about who deserves warnings. Those guards, they didn't deserve them. The 53 outcasts we saved, they deserved freedom. You helped give them that. Don't complicate it with guilt. Over the next 6 weeks, they liberate 8 more quarters. Each operation is different. Some involve combat. Some involve sneaking past sleeping guards. Some involve bribing corrupt officials who'd rather take money than fight. But each one ends the same. Gifted wolves freed, brought to Northern Territory or other safe packs, given the choice to stay or relocate as they prefer. Alara participates in every operation. Her curse-eating gift proves invaluable for disabling magical wards. Her death sight helps predict guard movements, plan optimal timing. Her presence reassures frightened outcasts that this is real, that the Deathseer who testified is personally ensuring their freedom. By the time the Council's 90-day deadline arrives, 12 of the 16 quarters have been voluntarily dismantled by compliant alphas. 3 were liberated by Theron's operations. Only 1 remains. Shadow Fiend. Alpha Vasilis has refused council orders, has barricaded his quarter behind reinforced walls and magical wards, and has publicly declared he'll execute every outcast in his custody before surrendering them to tainted sympathizers. He's going to kill them, Alara says, staring at the intelligence reports. Out of spite, because he'd rather have dead outcasts than freed ones. Then we don't give him time, Theron says grimly. We hit Shadowfen tonight. Full assault. We bring every warrior, every freed outcast who wants to help, and we end this before he can execute anyone. You're talking about war, says Mikhail, who's arrived to observe the final liberation. Attacking an alpha in his own territory without direct provocation. The council can't officially sanction this. Then don't sanction it, Theron says. I'm not asking for permission. I'm acting as Alpha King to prevent mass murder. If the council wants to censure me afterward, fine. But I'm not letting Vasilis kill outcasts to make a point. I'm coming, Alara says. Ilara, Theron starts. This is my quarter, she interrupts. I spent 24 years there. If there are any outcasts still alive inside, they need to see that escape is possible, that someone who survived is coming back for them. I'm going, Theron. As your partner, or without you, choose. As my partner, Theron says after a long moment. Always as my partner. The assault on Shadowfen happens at midnight. 200 wolves, Theron's warriors plus freed outcasts who volunteered to fight, surround the quarter walls. Alara stands beside Theron in his white wolf form, her own small gray wolf ready to shift and fight if needed. This is Alpha King Theron, Theron's voice projects across the quarter through a magical amplification spell. By order of the Council of Alphas, release the outcasts in your custody immediately, surrender peacefully, and face trial for your crimes. Resist and face immediate removal from leadership. Vasilis's response comes in the form of guards appearing on the walls, with crossbows aimed at the assembled wolves. The Shadowfen Pack does not recognize the Council's authority. Vasilis calls back. These outcasts are property of my pack. You want them, come take them. So be it, Theron says quietly. Then louder. Warriors, breach the walls. What follows is controlled chaos. Theron's warriors scale walls, disable guards, push through the quarter's defenses with military precision. Freed outcasts use their gifts. Kaya's fire, River's water manipulation, others with earth-moving or wind-calling or shadow-walking, to create openings, distractions, advantages. Ilara goes straight for the barracks. This is where outcasts will be, where they'll be most vulnerable if guards decide to execute them rather than allow liberation. She burst through the door to find exactly what she feared. Guards rounding up outcasts, preparing them for execution. 23 gifted wolves, all chained with cursed iron, all looking at death. Stop, Alara commands, her voice hard. The guards turn. One recognizes her. You're the Death Seer, the one who escaped. I'm the one who testified, Alara corrects. The one who brought the council down on this place. The one whose testimony is about to end everything you've built here. Let them go, now. Or what? The guard sneers. You'll talk at us some more? Alara's gift activates. She sees how this guard will die. Killed by her, actually, in approximately 40 seconds. Throat torn out by her wolf. She's never killed anyone before. Never been in a position where her violence was the solution. But looking at those 23 chained outcasts, at the executioner's blade already drawn, at the choice between their lives and this guard's, there's no choice at all. She shifts. Her small gray wolf launches at the guard, going for his throat. She's not large, not powerful, but Astrid trained her well. She knows where to bite, how to tear, how to make death quick, even when rage would prefer it slow. The guard falls, exactly as she foresaw, exactly 40 seconds after her warning. The other guards freeze, suddenly realizing that the small gray wolf, who killed their colleague, is a Death Seer who knew exactly how to do it efficiently. Leave, Alara says, shifting back to human form. Or stay and die. I see both futures. Choose quickly. They run. Alara turns to the chained outcasts. I'm getting you out. Hold still. She grabs the first cursed iron chain, absorbs the curse, feels it crumble to ash. Then the next. Then the next. Her hands are bleeding again, curse damage overwhelming even her adaptation, but she doesn't stop until all 23 are free. Can you walk? She asks. They nod silently, too shocked to speak. Then follow me. We're leaving. All of us. She leads them out of the barracks, through the quarter, toward the now breached walls. Around her, the assault continues. Theron's warriors overwhelming Shadowfen's guards, freed outcasts using their gifts to disable defenses, the systematic dismantling of everything this place represented. They're halfway to freedom when Vasilis appears, blocking their path. He's in wolf form, a massive brown beast with eyes full of hate, and he's looking directly at Alara. You did this, he snarls. You destroyed my pack, my life's work. Your life's work was torture, Alara says calmly. I just made sure it ended. Then it ends with your death. Vasilis lunges. Alara's gift shows her his death, killed by Thorn, who's racing toward her right now, who will arrive in 8 seconds and tear Vasilis apart for threatening his mate. 8 seconds. That's how long she needs to survive. She shifts, dodges Vasilis' attack, uses speed instead of strength like Astrid taught her. He's larger, more powerful, but she's faster and she knows exactly what he's going to do because her gift shows her every move before he makes it. 6 seconds. Vasily snaps at empty air as she darts away. 4 seconds. She sees him try to corner her against the barracks wall. She moves before he commits to the attack, leaving him confused and angry. 2 seconds. Vasilis realizes he's not going to catch her before help arrives. He goes for the outcasts instead, trying to kill them if he can't kill her. 0 seconds. Theron's massive white wolf crashes into Vasilis from the side, jaws closing around the brown wolf's throat. It's not a quick death like Alara gave the guard. It's brutal, prolonged, a statement about what happens to alphas who torture innocents. When it's over, Vasilis' body lies broken in the dirt. Thorn shifts back to human form, blood on his hands, his ice-blue eyes finding Alara immediately. Are you hurt? No, Alara says. I'm fine. The outcasts are safe. Around them, Shadowfen Quarter falls silent. The fighting stops. Guards surrender or flee. And 23 more gifted wolves walk toward freedom, guided by the Death Seer who came back for them,